In the summer of 1996, I was 20 years of age. My boyfriend, he was a married man. He took me to Sanya. Sanya is the southernmost end of China to see the ocean. Ocean is the heaven of my dreams. So that was the first time in my whole life I saw the ocean. For some reason, I just feel I wanted to see the ocean. I feel lots of questions about life could be answered if I just reached the ocean. If I could see the ocean just once, and I could die without any grudge. That's how I felt. How I was hungry for this ocean. I just knew I need that place. So we went there. We flew from Sichuan, Chengdu, to Haikou. Haikou, which is the north part of the island, and then from Haikou we transferred to a small airplane to the southern part of the island, which is Sanya. So we flew there. Very strange. When we got onto the airplane, there was nobody else. There was only me and my boyfriend. There was nobody else. So I thought, well, sounds like this trip is going to be very special. It's going to be small. It's going to be very romantic, or it's going to be very just unforgettable. That's how I felt. So when we arrived at the beach, we checked into the hotel, and we showed up at the beach very soon. I was so excited to see the beach. I was so excited to see the waves, the seagulls, to feel that place, to smell that ocean. I just feel so happy about it to see that. So after many pictures taken, and then I raised myself into the water. And I was standing there in the water. When the water only reached up to here, I stopped. I looked at the horizontal, and I was thinking, life wasn't fair. Why? Those people on the beach, they were so happy. Seemed like they never had any trouble, or they never went through any difficulties or hardships. But I had to go through so many hardships. And that time, I divorced. When my baby girl was born, I was left in the hospital by my ex-husband. He just left us in the hospital, and then we're supposed to stay in the hospital for 7 days. So the first 3 days he showed up, and then he left, he showed up, and then after that he just disappeared. So it was really hurt me. It was just really broke my heart. At that time, so life later on went into the wrong direction, and that's how I met this man, and then I went to the beach with him. At that time, I have no money, I have no job. I had no money, no job. I had no hope. I just didn't have anything at all. It was totally, totally useless and totally, totally hopeless. So I looked at the horizontal, and I was thinking, what I'm going to do in the future? Who is going to help me to bring up this child? Without help, without men to rely on, without any support, what am I going to do? And I'm so young, I divorced, and who is going to marry me again in the future? And how I'm going to face in the future? I just didn't know what to do. And I was just wanting to cry, but I knew I could not cry. There were so many people by the beach, so I didn't want to embarrass myself, to hold my tears back. And I was just thinking and thinking and thinking. And I sighed. I said, who could help me? From my bottom of my heart, from my mind, from my soul, I cried out that help. I didn't know how long I stood there. By the time I woke up from my daydreaming, and I realized that my body wasn't standing in the water anymore. I was my toes could barely touch the sand, and I thought, wow, this is a very short distance from here to the shore. I just could easily swim back. So I started to swim back. And then I realized why the people on the beach, their image is getting smaller and smaller. What happened? So I just tried harder, and the harder I tried, I was pulling away further. Then at that time, I realized there was a hand holding my ankle beneath the water, just holding my ankle very tightly and dragging me down to the water. It was a hand, and I was frightened. I realized that I was frightened. I tried everything I could, just to try the best to swim towards the shore. You know, I grew up by the Yangtze River. I know how to swim since I was 9 years old. So I never had any problem to swim in the water. Never afraid of anything. I've never afraid of the big waves or deep water or any complications. I can handle that. But that day, I just could not handle it. I wasn't strong enough, and I tried everything. when I chose to stand at that point, I saw there were two men stood, one stand on this side, one stand on the other side. When I chose that spot, I thought for some reason there's an idea just flashed in my mind. I thought, oh, here is very safe. I'm very close to him. They're very strong. If anything happened, I could ask help. They can come to help me. That's why I stood there. That's why I chose that spot. But when this happened, and I knew I could not help myself, so I turned myself to this one. I wanted to ask help. The minute I thought about it, that hand moved from the bottom of the sea, come up to hold my throat. So I could not make any noise. Then this man looked at me. My mouth was moving. I was asking help, but there's no noise came out from the mouth. I just say, hey, look at me, and he turned his face back. He just turned his face to the other way, and I didn't get any help, and I was so afraid. So I turned my face to this man, and I did the same thing, and he did the same thing too. So I was just totally ignored. They could not hear me. The hand was holding me very tighter and tighter. So to make sure that I was just completely, I could not make any noise at all. So when this happened, and then the hand moved down the water and hold my ankle and continued to drag me down to the water. And that time, I knew I could not get any help, and I just was pulling away, and it was pulling away further into the water when there was nobody else around me. And then my body started to turn around, and I didn't know what to do. At that time, I saw a big wave came, and then on the top of the wave, it was a big face, ugly face. And the minute I saw that face, I knew it was devil. It was huge. It was like this size, and the eyes was like this size, and it was coming, on the top of the wave. He came to me. He said, "I'm going to kill you today." When I saw that, I just knew I was finished. There's no hope. I'm dying. I'm just gone. I'm going to die today. So very soon, my mind, I was thinking, my mom, dad, and Wei Wei, my daughter's name. Mom, dad, Wei Wei, I'm sorry. They didn't even know where I was. I never told them where I was. So if I died, they would be very disappointed. So I closed my eyes. I stretched out my hands, and I was waiting to die. And by that time, the water already came up to here under my nostrils, and the water forced into my mouth. I started to drink in the water, to take the seawater, and I started to sink. But a miracle happened in a way that no one could ever imagine. The minute I closed my eyes, the minute I stretched out my hands, and then two words came out from my mouth, which I didn't know. I have no understanding what I was saying. My God! Immediately, the heaven opened. Then I saw object came, hover around in the air, hover around like a bird, like a big bird. It just came towards me. And then while he was coming, and he was folding his wings, and then he came on top of me and it covered me there. And then he just holding, and then he's landing. He landed in front of me, and then he rotated like this, and then he became an image of a man. And then he stood in front of me. I didn't know who he was. But the minute I saw that, I knew I came from him. So I knelt. So I just threw myself and down in front of him. And then later on, I saw behind of him, it was... when he came, I immediately, there's another two words came out from my mouth, which without me understanding anything. Another two words say, the Holy Spirit. I was an atheist at that time, I didn't know anything about God, but these two words just came out. So that's how Holy Spirit came and down like a bird, and then stood in front of me, and then rotated, and then became like a man, stood in front of me. So I didn't know who this man was. He was tall. He was wearing a robe. Behind him was an enormous, round, bright light shining with boundless radiance. He stood in front of me. He stood in front of the light. Yet the light and he were together. They were inseparable. In front of him, I trembled with great fear. I just trembled. I was so afraid. And I knew without him standing in front of the light, I would not be able to. I just could not exist. I shouldn't be there. So suddenly, he raised his right hand and he drew a semicircle from his left shoulder towards his right. He did this way. Then I saw a beam of light, a bright light, as brilliant as the light behind him. It passed through the palm of his hand and moved along with his hand when he drew the semicircle. And immediately, time turned back. Everything that had happened in my life reappeared in front of him, just like a video. There was a big scroll scroll you call book, slowly opened. Everything that I had said, all the things that I had done, and all the thoughts that I had had, they all recorded into that book. I saw the words deadly sin, frequently appeared into that book. That's how I was recorded into that book. I could not believe I was such a filthy, sinful person. I just put my face on the ground and said, I am a sinner, I deserve to die, let me go to die. I said I should have died many times, let me go to die. And I understood so clearly that I only deserved to die. And I was willing to wait, and I was willing to die. And then I had believed that he will send somebody to take me, he will send somebody to put me to death. I believed that. However, nothing happened. Everything was still peaceful, was still quiet. Then I asked myself, what he's waiting for? Suddenly I heard a voice sounding from heaven above and earth below. My child, you have come back at last. I have been waiting for you for so long. When I looked up, the brilliant bright light behind him had disappeared. He became a real living man. The brilliant bright light behind him had disappeared. He became a real man. He stood in front of me. But he was above the ground, just like a few steps away from me. There was a hole on the left side of his heart. Blood and water pouring out from that hole. Who was so cool, I said to myself. Who was so cool? Who was so mean? Who would punch such a big hole in his heart? The minute I thought about it, and the Spirit told me that blood was shed for my sins, and his pain was caused by my faults. And his blood shed for me and for the whole world. And his pain was caused by my sins, all of my sins, including those visible and invisibles. And I broken his heart. All the sins that had been recorded in that book had hurt him and had been hurting him always. My depravity, debauchery, immorality, my ignorance, stubbornness, rebellions, my bitterness, resentment, and anger. Never for a moment that I had stopped. Every sin that I had committed was a painful torment for him. Every sin was like a sharp knife that injured him deeply. It was I who had broken his heart. It was me. It was I who caused him pain. It was I who caused him bleed like that. Then I saw the pure love from his eyes. It was just pouring out into my direction. And I said to myself, I've never seen such a love. It's a pure love. It's a true love. Is that for me? I was questioning my mind, and I looked around, and there was no one else. And immediately the words came to me, yes, it's for you. But how can this be? I said, it's impossible. I have nothing, and I have nothing to pay you back. He said, you never had anything without me, but I still love you, and I never expect anything back from you. He said, take it. My love will never change. And then more the love came to me with the words. I have never experienced such an unconditional love. I could not hold my feelings, and I burst into tears. I was just crying out in front of him. I said, but why do you love me? Who am I? I'm nobody. I was never favored by my parents. I grew up with no confidence. I'm an abandoned woman. I'm an abandoned woman with a broken heart and lonely. I'm lonely and in pain. And diligently I searched the true love everywhere, but I found nothing. I said I worth nothing, and I'm just the word. I'm worse than the dust or dirt. Nobody has ever paid attention to me. I have no value, no job, no money, no home to go to. After the divorce, I could not find my identity. I just totally lost. I'm so tired with no place to go back and nobody to rely on. The only thing I have is my daughter, but I could not have her with me. I have to separate with her. I do not want to live like this, but I have no choice. I was pushed to this point, and I have no hope, no future, no dignity. I have nothing. Why do you love me? I wept aloud. You are my favorite. I have never moved my eyes away from you. I watched all your sufferings, and I know you are in pain. Yet my heart has more pain than yours, because I have always loved you. The words came to me. I wept even louder. Had I known the true love is in you, I would never have gone out and searching for it, and I would never have made so many mistakes. But it's too late now. I want your love, but I'm a sinner. I only deserve to perish. Everything had already been written in that book. I have to pay the price for everything that I have done wrong. A woman like me, I have no shame. I'm filthy, I'm dirty. How could I deserve your love? No, I do not deserve it. I shook my head. Before I had even finished thinking, the answer came to, he just came in and spoke to me in spirit, say, I tried very hard to tell you how much I love you. But you refused me and never gave me any chance to allow me to go into your heart. I knew everything he said was true, and I was so regretful, and I felt myself was so stupid. And however, the more loves just come into me like waves, and the words continued. It's never too late. Your past is not important for me. The important part is I love you. No matter what your background is, how poor, how broken you are, and no matter how worthless you feel, how deep you have sinned, or if you have known me or not, I still love you and will never abandon you. He said, my love has never changed, and it never will be. I cried on the top of my voice. Then the same voice came from everywhere, and from the earth, from the heaven above and the earth below, everywhere, saying, go help her. I opened my eyes. I just could not believe I was still alive. There was a man in front of me. He said, put your hands on my shoulder. I'll take you out of the water. Immediately I knew he was sent by the one I had just seen. So I followed him. It took me out of the water. I could not walk. My whole body was tremble like the electrical current went through my body. So I would just shake like that. Immediately I wanted to lie down, and he said, "No, you cannot lie here. When the wave comes, it will take you away." So he helped me. He has supported me. He dragged me, half drag, half support. He just to pour me a little further, so the water until he thought it was safe. So he left me there. Immediately I went to deep sleep. I did not know how long. That night, many questions flooded into my mind. I was just asking myself, first question was, who was that man? Who he was? How could heaven open? How could he come from there? I've never seen anybody from heaven. How could he come from there? I've never educated. There's no words in my mind to educate it, to describe that. And what was that light? What kind of the light was that? It was like a summer sun, but it was much stronger, brighter than the summer sun. Never you could see that in the world. And why there's a hand? Why there's the beam of the light went through the hand, went through his hand? And why he knew everything about me, and I know nothing about him? That night I knew I met the God that I had never believed before. The vision I saw, the voice I heard, the experience that I had, I knew it wasn't a dream. I knew it wasn't something I could imagine. I knew I was in a real place. I must prove it. So the next day, I went back to the beach. I found the man who pulled me out of the water, and I invited him for dinner to show my gratitude. surprised me. He could not understand my language. And because I spoke the Mandarin and he spoke the local language, so we couldn't understand. We need a third party to be the translator to understand each other. And but anyway, he came. He came to the dinner with his best friend. So the best friend could be the interpreter between us. And during the meal, I asked him only one thing. That's only one thing I need to know. I said, "Where were you? How did you see me when I was in a danger?" He said, through his friend, he said, "No, I did not see you. I was in the middle of the shower. My whole body was full of soap. I had nothing on, was just full of soap. And then I heard a voice say, 'Go help her.' Then I grabbed a pair of the underwear and I just covered myself. I raced out and I ran to you." And he said, when I heard that, I knew this was the God. I really met a God. I really met this God face to face. He saved me. Not only that, he saved me. He sent this man to save me. And I knew that wasn't a coincidence. It was arranged by him. I did not know this God was Jesus Christ. I cried out to my God. I said, "God, if you don't appear to me anymore, if you don't speak to me anymore, you send somebody to me to teach me about this Jesus. Who is this Jesus? I want to understand. Who is this Jesus business? I just need to know that." And then a year later, God really has a sense of humor. He sent the same man back to the city. The man who I mentioned about that before. So he sent the same man back to the city. And then this American man, his name Doug, Mr. Doug, we call him. So he gathered young people like me together. We studied English. He offered a free English class. So we studied English. And then English, the beginning of the English class was like a piece of paper like this. So we read the stories or read the paragraphs. So you study the words, everything. And very soon, it became study the Gospel of John. And then he started to tell us, he said, Jesus Christ is the only God. He's a powerful God. He's a miracle God. He showed the miracles. He made the deaf hear. He made the blind see. And he just made people cured. And he made dead people walk out from the tomb. And he just, the King of the King, the Lord of the Lord. And I was thinking, these people really know how to make up stories. This just the stories they make up to help us study the English. But anyway, I needed the free class. I need to study English. I'm just wait until this finish. I will tell them my story and I will tell them who this real God is. I'm going to tell them. So one day we came to the point. Jesus asked Thomas, "Put your finger into my hand and the side." And Jesus told him, "Stop doubting and believe." And then Mr. Dog, he emotioned this way. When I look at that, and I thought, oh, and he said, because of love, the King of the King, the Lord of the Lord, was crucified. However, 3 days later, not only he was raised from the dead, but also he appeared to many disciples at different places. He appeared. As for the mark of the nails in his hand, the disciples saw it, Thomas touched it, everything was true. When I heard this, I almost fell from the chair I was sitting on. That's the answer. Since I met the Lord, I didn't remember how many times I was asking myself, how could it possibly be? There's light went through the palm of that hand, and there's a hole, but I looked around everybody. Nobody I found has a hole in their hand, in the middle of their hand. So I guessed that's when he showed me that, and I knew. I said, I saw that hand. And then that's how the name of Jesus really came into my heart. But because of the stubbornness, I still have the difficult time to put Jesus really to be completely merged with the one I saw. But I know, so I constantly struggle with that. I constantly talking to him, Jesus, if you are real, you show me some miracles today. You show me some miracles today. And he really did. He showed another 2 miracles to me. And one of them was was when I was in the hospital one day. I had a surgery, and I could not afford. I had a surgery, so I could not afford to hire somebody to care about me. The pain was still incredible. I couldn't. It's impossible for me to go down to the 7th floor to buy my own food. And then I didn't have any food that day. I was just so hungry. I didn't have anything to eat, and nobody knew I was hungry. So at that time, I lied in that bed, and I said, Jesus, if you're real God, you know I'm in this condition. You would send me something to eat, just a little bit of food. So I was just thinking about that, and I went to sleep. Very soon, that was probably, I didn't know how long I was lying there. And the lady next to me, next to my bed, she woke me up. She said, hey, woke up. She had a box of food in her hand. And she said, I have this extra food. I want to give to you today. That's only Jesus can do that. And he has to be the Lord. He just has to be the Lord. That's how he really came into my life and just became, and I totally knew this was the Jesus who appeared on the ocean, who saved my life, and who just did that miracle. So very soon I went back to this American man. I asked him, I said, I want to be a Christian. One day I just went to him, I said, I want to be a Christian. And he was so surprised, and I was so excited. He said, actually, we prayed for you. He said, a year ago, after we met you, we prayed for you. Actually for you. We asked the Lord to open your eyes. We asked the Lord to open your ears, to open your heart, that you can see him, you can hear his voice, and you can know him, you can be saved. And then that was the time I thought, all the time I was thinking, what was the connection between me and God? That's because of their prayer. I was saved. So how important the prayer is. But anyway, so I became a Christian, and then later I was baptized. And after I was baptized, I was just, really gave my life to follow Jesus Christ. God wanted me to tell it's about heaven. His promise is real. So heaven is real, and heaven is our real home. That's the only home. That's the place that we end in. When our journey finished here, and that's the place we're going to be. I just want to give all of us the hope that we have really hope to go. When we finish this journey on the earth, and that's the place we want to be. And that's the place Jesus is really waiting for us. It's a real place. They say heaven is real. I thought, it's true. Heaven is real.